Hello, everybody, and welcome. I can't say back because this is a new season of the Media Boat podcast. We are starting season 10. 10,
10.
10, 10 years of doing this.
Jeez.
I can't believe it. My name is Mike, doing all these episodes. With me is Matt, also doing all these episodes.
Hi, I'm Matt. He's Mike. And yes, welcome to the Media Boat Podcast. Technically, it's not 10 years yet. I believe it'll be 10 years when we do the wrap-up show at the end of this season. Because
Uh,
remember when we first started, we started
Episode
with a
0.
year-end wrap-up. Yeah.
Episode
So,
0 was
yeah.
2015 wrap up, yes.
So right. So it won't be quite 10 years until
It's the
December of this year.
start. It's the
Right.
start of the 10 years.
Yeah. By the time we're done, it will have been
Because
10 years.
2016, all
That's how that works.
2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Don't count out. Here it is,
Yeah.
25, the start of
Right.
25.
The start of, but yeah,
Yes.
just to make ourselves feel a little better about it. We haven't done this for a decade yet. We're getting there. We're not yet.
Yes. We're entering season 10. When we
Yes, but
conclude season
anyway,
10, we've done it for 10 years.
right. Anyway, all that is to say, thank you for joining us. Today is episode 468. Actually, I want to update this number. And then yeah, today is January the 3rd, 2025. We made it into the new year, and because it's a new year, kind of a slow week, but we've gathered some stuff for y'all, and we do have a show.
Yes, it may be a shorter show, but it is still a show nonetheless. So let's get right into it with the music section. Start the music section with the Billboard. Start the Billboard with the Hot 100. And do not be alarmed. These are just the rollovers from Christmas because we're on a new
Yeah.
day here. So the Hot 100 is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. At 2, Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee. Coming in at 3, Last Christmas by Wham! At 4, Jingle Bell Rock by Bobby Helms. And rounding out your top 5, and surprisingly coming into the top 5, Santa Tell Me by Ariana Grande. Not a name you normally see up here.
Yeah, that's a new one to the top five. Last week it was hovering just outside of the top five, but yeah, it made it. I believe that is a new high for that song.
I believe so as well. As for your albums chart, your Billboard 200, at number 1 is Album of the Year, SOS by SZA. Not our Album of the Year. Don't want to give that away. Coming at 2 is Christmas by Michael Bublé. At 3, Ultimate Christmas by Bing Crosby. But then at 4, not to be outdone, The Christmas Song by Nat King Cole. And then rounding at your 5, GNX by Kendrick Lamar.
Yes, that classic Christmas album, GNX by Kendrick Lamar. A note about the SZA entry here. So yes, SOS, an album that came out December of 2023, ends up back on the list because streams of Lana, the deluxe version of SOS, counted toward the original. So that's why you see it here at number one. So technically, this is the deluxe version of SOS that's charted, but because of the way that Billboard works, the
Mhm.
original one is the one that shows up as number one. So that's an explanation for why this is happening. This isn't a fluke. There was new music that caused this.
The deluxe.
Yeah.
All right. Wait, isn't that the Lisa version or not?
Lana.
Lana,
I
yes.
said that, but you were looking at something else.
Yes, I was getting praise from work.
Oh, well, in that case, then yes, obviously, more important.
Yes. If you like any of those albums or you want to listen to something in 2025, we have new release.
One.
Just one. Uh, I don't know if you want to listen to this, but it's called Perverts by Ethel Cain.
Yes, Ethel Cain, who put out the single American Teenager, I think 2 or 3 years ago, got some traction, has a cult following of sorts. Ethel Cain's new record is out this week on the 8th. So yeah.
So if you want to listen to that and get the new music ball rolling, there you go.
There you go.
Let's get to our music story then, where we had a little bit of a TikTok update.
Yes.
So it's 2025. It's January, and TikTok, under a law passed last year, faces a looming deadline that will make the video app illegal in the US as of January 19th, unless Chinese parent company ByteDance divests its ownership stake. TikTok challenged the law on First Amendment grounds, and after losing an appellate court ruling, is seeking an emergency injunction from the U.S. Supreme Court to block the law from taking effect. Not wanting to, be silent on this issue, President-elect Trump, in an amicus brief filed on his behalf with the Supreme Court on Friday, asked the High Court to stay the January 19th deadline, which is one day before Trump takes office, in order to, quote, grant more breathing space to address these issues, close quote. Trump's brief does not detail what kind of deal his administration might work out that would be acceptable to TikTok and ByteDance, Chinese companies, while also satisfying the concerns of the law's supporters in the US, who argue that TikTok is under the control of the Chinese Communist Party to keep the popular app legally available in the United States.
So a lot of this is old
And
news,
it's old news, but it's
but
something that we saw coming when they gave the January 19th deadline, which is historically before the next president takes office.
yeah. So go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, when the law was passed, we didn't know who would take office, whether it would be a Republican administration, a Democrat administration, an independent insurrectionist administration. Who knew when the law was passed? But here we are on the eve of political power changing hands in the US. As we said in our wrap up show, which you can go listen to right now, big plug right there, we're going to see a lot of, what was the word we used? Interesting challenges that the US government's going to face going forward when a new
Yeah.
administration rolls in.
Yeah, so this one's a weird one because on paper, you would think that this would be something that Trump would be all for. Like when you think about the Trump administration, the prior one, and the one that's coming in, you definitely think of them as, well, they're he's the guy that's selling these tariffs, right, on Chinese goods. He's the one that's like really pushing this narrative about making things in the US, focusing on industry in the US, et cetera, et cetera. So why is he being weirdly lenient about TikTok? That's a good question. All I can think of, and what seems to be the general consensus opinion here, is it because this is a thing that Biden got really behind, and it was his administration that really pushed the banning of TikTok. That is why he is standing against it. And he did make campaign promises on the campaign trail that he would keep TikTok from being removed from the App Store. Again, I don't know. It's almost like this guy just picks his issues on a dartboard or something. I don't know. Or he just like has so many people in his ear at all times that he just picks and chooses from what he wants to hear from them. So yeah, who knows why? It doesn't make any sense for his policy, but if he somehow gets TikTok to stay, I do think that some people will be very excited about that prospect because it is an extremely popular app. We do not have time, obviously, on this show to go into whether or not it should be around, whether or not its security is, for example, as like leakable and as risky as, say, American companies like Meta, that do the same gathering of our data, but they're not Chinese, so somehow it's different. Like there's a lot of xenophobia, in the mix here. I don't know. It's a very complicated issue, but what I will say today is that none of this matters because, like the story says, it's unclear what he even plans on doing. Sure, if they issue a stay and they extend that deadline, what is the Trump administration going to do?
I mean, it's not like the incoming president has a social media company that's actively competing against the
Right.
Chinese Communist Party's TikTok
Hmm.
social media app, that he doesn't have
Yeah.
his own social media app that he could, like, say, want to promote instead,
Right.
or have
In a
someone in his ear, like, saying, "Hey, this is taking away viewership from my social media account." There's no way he's got something like that going on right now, right? He's not that easily influenced and swayed, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks about this. Who knows what will happen here? But in all likelihood, I would not be surprised if you do see a delay of this and that date of January 19th, which is rapidly approaching, does extend beyond that.
Well, it's also it can be interesting the what if any like actual repercussions come from
Yeah.
if they aren't removed, because like you can pass laws saying you must remove it, but if no one removes it, what are they going to do about it? Are they just going to throw them in jail? I don't think so.
Uh,
Laws, are only as good as the people who uphold those
yeah.
laws.
Yeah. I have no idea. I honestly do not know.
All right, enough about politics. Let's go
Yes.
into video. Did you listen to anything?
No. I still have not had time. I've been working on some of the things in the background.
All right, let's go into video games. We'll start with new releases. We've got two for you this week. First up, Wise Memoir, colon.
East.
It is East.
East.
I
Yeah.
almost went East, but
You've
I
gotten
was
it
like,
right
oh, it
in the
doesn't sound
past.
right.
No, you've gotten it correct in the past too, which was funny that you
Yeah, I think
didn't
I
this
was
time.
trying to make fun of it in the past, maybe. East Memoir, colon. The Oath in Valhalla for the PS4, PS5, and the Switch. And lastly, uh, get out your shotguns and Dixie flags because it's Freedom Wars
I do
remastered.
not I do not think this has anything to do with the Confederate flag, but okay.
But it's called Freedom Wars.
There are other
And this is,
things that are asking for freedom from something else.
I don't know, but it's the second time that it's happening. So that's why it's remastering it. Everything that's old that was 8 years ago is now new again
Sure.
for the PC, PS4, PS5, and the Switch.
Yep.
Switch is 8 years old, right? Freedom
Oh,
Wars.
very much so.
Yeah. But as we have alluded to time and time again, the Switch 2 is right around the corner. We got a little bit more information coming out as a new Nintendo patent appears to support claims that its Nintendo Switch successor will utilize DLSS style upscaling technology. This was found out due to a patent filing in July of 2023, but was recently published on Tuesday, which describes a system of machine learning that can convert images of one resolution into a higher one. DLSS, or Deep Learning Super Sampling, and other similar technologies work by using AI to upscale the resolution of games, effectively allowing developers to achieve higher graphical settings and better frame rates on weaker hardware. Sony's recently launched PlayStation 5 Pro utilizes its own upscaling technology, the PSSR, at a platform level, while AMD's FSR is a popular solution on other consoles, which utilizes on game by game basis.
Yeah,
So, yes, upscaling
not surprising.
as it should be.
Right. The technology is so accessible now and probably got a lot cheaper in the last handful of years that, of course, Nintendo would take advantage of it now that they can. We all pretty much assumed that in order to keep costs down and to keep the unit handheld, Nintendo was not probably going to release something that was going to do 4K native. Like, we just kind of know that. Even the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally do not do native 4K on their screens. It's just not, it's just, you can't expect that kind of technology, that kind of screen price in that price range of that kind of console. So if Nintendo wants to put out this thing under $400, they're gonna have to use upscaling. But it's not a bad tech. I mean, it's being used on all places, especially as the story mentions in the recently released PlayStation 5 Pro. If it's good enough for the PlayStation 5, of course Nintendo is going to use this. Of course, what variety of DSSLR kind of style technology going to be used here, we don't know yet. Um, but it will have something in there. And it follows that Nintendo like strategy of releasing something that's slightly underpowered compared to the competition, but capable of at least what the bare minimum of expectation for a video game is at this point. And that bare minimum, it moves, that needle moves every so and so years. And the Switch is just not doing it. Like the last couple of years, the OG Switch, everything that comes out of it on it is definitely underperforming. Like the Switch cannot handle a modern game. So something that modernizes the hardware up to a certain point and then brings it up to a 4K resolution with DLSS makes perfect sense for Nintendo to keep this thing 350.
You mean I can actually play Freedom Wars Remastered on the Switch without any loss? Yeah, okay.
I mean,
What this
yeah.
okay, this was expected because Nintendo has come out already and said that your Switch games will be available to play on the Switch too.
Mhm.
So it makes sense that this new hardware would have to have some kind of backwards compatibility to upscale the current iteration of the Switch games.
Mhm. Yeah. And it's going to be a great thing to sell the console on launch day, right? Because then Nintendo can not only say, look at these cool new games that take advantage of the power of the Switch 2, but also play your old Switch 1 library in a higher resolution and boom, that's like a twofer. That's going to sell a lot of people on upgrading to the Switch 2 that may not have otherwise.
Hey, do you like Breath of the Wild? You like Tears of the Kingdom? Here it is, upscaled. And,
Yeah, exactly.
just and the like, all the Mario stuff that just recently came out,
Yeah.
uh, the Zelda games.
Nintendo
Yeah,
Nintendo's always about, using technology to their benefit to simplify the experience and make it cheaper for their consumer. And boom, this is a perfect solution.
sounds great to me.
Yep.
Uh, uh, so, did you play anything?
No, I'm taking a little bit of a video game break, surprisingly enough, because I am doing something else with my computer. I'm working on a really stupid project. That you will see the results of when I am finished. Just a few more days, I think I'll have it in the can.
All right, well, in the meantime, while you're working on that project, you could have one of your screens open to this upcoming week's festivities. Now, I'm talking about Games Done Quick. This is Awesome Games Done Quick, the start of the new year, where they run the biannual speed marathon of video games. It'll start on Sunday and run through the week. I believe this one is Doctors Without Borders, as the Summer Games Done Quick is the Prevent Cancer Foundation.
Yes. Yep, we always love this every year. We always shout it out because what better way to spend the doldrums of winter by watching people play video games to break them. It's just always a good time. Maybe a dog will compete again this year.
They got Astrobot speed running in under 2 hours, so
Yes.
excited about that.
Yes. Always fun.
Always fun. All right. If we didn't play anything else, let's get into the television section where we start with the sports quarters. And it's the beginning of the year, and Ayo is here. That's right. The Australian Open. They're just beginning. It's always the first one that takes place at the beginning of the year because it's so warm and sunny down
Yeah.
under.
Summer.
But as I saw a headline real quickly, uh, Djokovic already got eliminated.
Wow.
So
That's
we
fast.
will have a new champion in the men's singles.
That's so
Although will we? Because probably just going to be Skinner taking this thing, as his career trajectory is taking off right now.
that's good. Okay.
Right? We are entering the last week of the NFL play or the NFL regular season. The last game of the year will be the most pivotal game that they probably ever had at the final game. It will be between the Lions and the Vikings. Now, both those teams, Lions and Vikings, have already clinched a playoff spot, along with the Eagles, the Rams, the Commanders, and the Packers in the NFC. And then just real briefly over in the AFC, the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans, Steelers, and Chargers have also clinched their playoff spot. But what makes the Lions and Vikings game so appealing this upcoming Sunday night football is that the winner gets the first round bye because both these
Oh.
teams have the same record at 14-2 going into the final game, which means that they're both at the top of their division. So whoever wins will get the one game edge over the other to not only win the division, but also secure that also, I want to say maybe cursed first round bye, as we'll get to in a second here. But yeah, the NFL playoffs. Hopefully you won a fantasy football championship this past weekend. I know I didn't. I know someone who did,
There you
but
go.
this is the last time we will have a regular season football game until, well, the Arena League, the XFL in the spring.
Yeah.
Technically that counts. But going into what I mentioned real briefly, the D League, the NCAA
Mhm.
games, the top four teams of the college football playoffs, who all got their buys going into the quarterfinals, all ended up losing
Mm.
in those games.
Dang.
So they expanded the playoffs to 12 teams, and those bottom eight teams, or those middle eight teams, the 5 through 8, all ended up winning both the previous game and this game. So which means for the semifinals, we have number 6 seed Penn State versus number 7 seed Notre Dame, and number 8 seeded the Ohio State versus number 5 seeded Texas. It's
Mm.
almost as if winning your conference champion means absolutely nothing.
Guess so.
It also means that going undefeated in the regular season means absolutely nothing, as Oregon, the favorite going into this thing, got absolutely stomped at the Rose Bowl by the Ohio State. Now, granted, Texas should have lost that game versus ASU, especially going into double overtime. Uh, but now they get to play, and out of these four teams, who do you want to see lift the trophy?
I don't know. I'm hoping that was a rhetorical question because I know nothing about college football.
It was very much a rhetorical question because either you're going to go with like Notre Dame because Rudy, or the Ohio State because the annoyance, or Texas
I
because of Manning,
thought you
or
were going to say
Penn
because of
State,
the
the Texas.
because no for Hawaii Ohio State because
I,
of the
I did say the because of the, and then Penn State just because they're the outside ones looking in.
maybe.
But we had other bowl games happening. This actually was a bowl bonanza where we had
Yes.
two different games go into overtime. Well, three if you count the Texas and ASU game. But the Hawaii Bowl went to five overtimes,
Wow.
where South Florida ended up being San Jose State 41-39. But not to be outdone, Game Above Sports Bowl went into six overtimes, with Toledo edging Pittsburgh 48-46.
Wow.
And then, of course, all the other fun bowls happened, including the Pop Tart Bowl,
Yes,
everyone's
fan
favorite.
favorite, the fan favorite Pop Tart Bowl. They sacrificed another Pop Tart this year.
Yes, into the toaster oven he went. But yeah, this does mean that we have two semifinal games left before the national championship game on January 20th,
Okay.
which, may be some better to watch that day than other stuff that happens.
Maybe.
Let's see here. Going into around the leagues in the NHL, the Jets goalie, Connor Hellebuck, currently leads all goaltending stats with games against, goals against at 2.06, saves percentage at 0.927, and currently has 24 wins already in the season. Congratulations. You're on your way to win that Conn Smythe Trophy already.
There you go.
As for the NBA, the All-Star voting is currently happening. We have the current vote leader, Giannis Antetokounmpo, leading with 1.7 million votes, followed by Nikola Jokic having 1.4 million votes. In a sign of the times that they are turning, both LeBron and Steph Curry are currently in third place on those votes, meaning they'll most likely come off the bench, and for the first time, neither of them will be starting the All-Star game.
Okay.
I mean, granted, they will make the list
Oh,
because, of
yeah,
course,
they'll
they
be in
will.
there. Yeah, they just won't
They'll be
start.
there, but they won't be the like part of the starting fives. They won't get the grand intro lineups. It'll just be like, oh, and then there's LeBron, and then there's Steph Curry,
Right.
and now your starting lineup. But that's what happens when you're 40 years old.
Yeah,
Which, by
I
the way,
mean,
congrats, LeBron. You hit 40.
yep, and he's still doing it, at least for the time being.
Yep. Let's see here. In other NBA news, the Oklahoma City Thunder are currently on a 13-game winning streak
Wow.
and can just rocketed. Wait, no, sorry, that's a different team. Thundering up the rankings there.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the New Orleans Pelicans are diving at an 11-game losing streak.
Yikes.
Uh, and then lastly, in MLB, spring training starts on February 20th, with the first game being the Cubs versus the Dodgers. And then opening day will be on March 27th. So
Yep.
a little bit
Looking
ways
forward to that.
away for that, but this does mean that we have 1 month until pitchers and catchers for the Cubs and Dodgers start reporting to spring training.
All right. In just about 3 months until we get some real baseball, which is exciting. So looking forward to that.
All right. I think that's all we have over in sports then.
I believe so, which means I can take the ball and take us to television news proper this week. And our news story today is about a television staple that's moving nights. Yes, in a unprecedented, except for a brief time in the 90s where it moved to Thursdays, move, Fox has officially moved The Simpsons off of Sunday night. The longest running American animated series will surpass 800 episodes this season, but won't be on its usual night. Following the Super Bowl in February, Fox's animation domination Sundays will now be led by Family Guy's season 23, Grimmsburg's second season, The Great North's fifth season, and Krapopolis's second season. Notably absent are The Simpsons, which is starting its 36th season, and Bob's Burgers, starting its 15th, both continuing from their fall premieres, which were presumed to be shifting to Wednesday nights. Fox CEO Rob Wade explained that the network was, quote, looking at the schedule in a more modern way, end quote, adding, quote, we also think about SVOD partner Hulu and how it would work best for them. Scheduling has changed significantly over the years, and we approach it in a different way now. There's some things to think about for this. Well, yes, Fox is right. They do have to think about video on demand numbers a little bit more than they have in the past. A lot of people probably watch The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers via Hulu, probably more than ever before, than are tuning in for the Sunday night premieres. But of course, you're probably thinking the same thing everybody is thinking about this. They're the two that are owned by Disney.
Mhm.
Fox doesn't actually have the rights to those shows anymore. They seem to be focused, well, Family Guy either, but aside from Family Guy, the other three Fox wholly owns as a network. And so it does mean that there's probably some favoritism going on here with the shows that they can promote more heavily that they're getting more revenue from. So this could be the first steps you'd see toward a streaming future potentially for The Simpsons, which we've been kind of thinking about ever since the Disney buyout, right? Is when will it just go on to Disney Plus? This past holiday season, we've already seen an exclusive Disney Plus Simpsons episode, which I still haven't watched. Um, and they just did something similar on Hulu with Family Guy. So the writing's kind of on the wall for Fox to maybe experiment with how they're broadcasting The Simpsons. So yeah, not surprising, but like I said, it is surprising in a way, since yeah, this is the first time it's not been on Sundays since I want to say '93, where they moved it on Thursdays to compete against the Bill Cosby, the Cosby Show on NBC, which it handily destroyed after a period of time. But yeah, wow, what a weird thing to think about.
Yeah, I mean, we always associate The Simpsons with Sunday night 8 a.m., the start of
Yeah,
that
8 p.m.
animation domination block
Yeah.
for Fox. Uh, but if a lot of Fox's numbers and viewership for The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers, like you said, come from Hulu and streaming video on demand, does it make sense to heavily promote it if people are going
Yeah.
to eventually find them and watch them anyways? That they'd rather use that prime spot on Sunday night to, like you said, promote their own stuff. If
Yeah.
The Simpsons and Bob's Burgers already have their built-in audiences,
Mhm.
and the comedies that follow Grinsburg or Family Guy, The Grinsburg, The Great North, and Crapopolis follow in the same comedic styles as Family Guy, which they do.
Yeah.
Although Great North more falls in line with Bob's Burgers because it's the same animation studio, but that's
Mhm.
the side there. Um, that makes sense that you Simpsons being such, I won't call it. I mean, it is. Let's just call it what it is.
It's an
Spade, a spade.
outlier.
It's an
Yeah.
outlier. It's an
Yeah.
outdated comedic format that The Simpsons has their built-in audience, and this the people are going to go wherever The Simpsons go. So you're
Right.
not going to have a significant drop. I mean, you'll have a drop off, but not as significant as, like I said, wanting to promote these other shows that Fox wholly owns.
Yeah. And there's a missing piece of the puzzle here, which is we, of course, do not see the streaming data from Hulu that Fox sees. So, for all we know, there could be some sort of evidence that they can point to internally that certain shows do better when on Hulu than when they're released on like midweek as opposed to when they're released on weekends. Maybe that's because they don't need like maybe that way they can include maybe Saturday Sunday numbers in that like reporting, and maybe it's different if it was released on Sunday night and then the following weekend there's a drop off. I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of science going on in the background, this modern approach that the CEO here is mentioning. But as far as I know, this seems like a move towards changing how Fox deals with The Simpsons. But it could mean whatever you want it to mean.
It could also be just counter programming because the only other like big Wednesday show for the networks is Chicago Wednesday and NBC. And
That's
The
true.
Simpsons is very far away from all the Chicago drama that you could get there in
That
some
is
community
true.
state. And that could be what they're doing here is that, hey, go with counter programming.
Yeah.
Easily against it.
But even talk, and this is to his point, is even talking about what competes with a show on network television on Wednesday
Mhm.
feels like an ancient conversation. This
Right,
feels
because
like
everything's
nobody
streaming
talks
now.
about television this way anymore. So yeah,
That's why you
maybe he's
listen
right.
to us.
Yeah, because we're old.
Yes, let me point that out. 10 years.
Yeah, can you believe when we started this, we were still a very young mid 20s. Don't
Yes.
think about it. Anyways, we've moved up. Yeah, you know what happened is this is the year I officially move up a the
Demographic bracket.
demographic. Yeah, I become the 35. I'm
Yep.
not no longer the 18 to 35.
You're the 30,
Anyway,
you're 35
yeah,
plus.
move on. Anyway, still listen to us though. We're still fresh. We still pay attention to these things. We're not old, right?
Yeah,
Anyway,
we know what cap is.
yeah, we do. There was a really
All right.
bad segue I could make here, but I'm not going to make it because I'm respectful. Moving on to deaths. We do have some prominent deaths this week. I feel bad laughing. Um, but none more prominent than one we actually did mention on our wrap-up show, but I'll mention again this right here because it did happen this week. Our oldest living president has finally passed at age 100. Jimmy Carter passed away after a handful of years where we figured that this would be, he was kind of in the hospital, kind of not doing too hot. We knew it was coming, but the fact that he made it to 100 is quite a state, like quite an accomplishment. He did what he said he was hoping to do, which was vote for Kamala Harris as president before he passed. He was able to do that this past November. And yeah, he is now the oldest president, like the oldest a president has lived is now 100. So yeah, quite a career. Obviously, being president in the 70s meant he also was president during a lot of pop culture. I saw an article today refer to him as the rock and roll president because of that kind of era. And so yeah, definitely made an impact on American history. Do yourself a favor, look up the Carter administration and all the stuff that they got done. Definitely one of the easier presidents kind of to get behind, especially in the modern view. But yeah,
I don't know. He's got that peanut farm. Although now he at least gets to spend his rest of his afterlife with his wife, June Carter, who
that is true.
they were married for an extremely long time until her passing a handful of years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Also this week we have Britt Allcroft, age 81, who was the creator of Thomas the Tank Engine.
Yes, and all the following
Yeah.
British books that followed.
Right. And
That
television
show is so British. Have you
shows.
watched it?
It's very British. It's very
It's very
British. Do
British.
yourself a favor if you have not seen clips of the original. Wow. It's a trip.
Ringo Starr is the
Yes.
narrator.
Ringo Starr is there. He's the conductor, I believe. Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Oh,
Um,
Thomas.
yep. And then lastly, this is a sad one for followers of CBS Sports over the last couple of decades, but Greg Grumble, you have Grumble here. It's Gumble. It's
I think
definitely
it's
Gumble.
Gumball. There's no R there.
Greg Grumble sounds like a Muppet name. No,
Yes.
Greg Gumbel, of course, age 78, a staple of CBS sports broadcasting for years. If you saw him, you'd immediately recognize him. But yeah, has passed this week.
Yes. Brother to Bryant Gumbel. Greg
Yes.
Gumbel always appeared during the NCAA tournament, March
Right.
Madness brackets.
Yes.
And of course, other CBS sports as well. Will be sorely missed this upcoming year.
Oh yeah. All right. So that does it for deaths this week. No cancellations and renewals this week. Like you said, it is kind of the doldrums of broadcast winter. And
Yes.
so we don't have a whole lot of things getting renewed right now. So we will then move on
Well,
to,
it's not like someone got bit uh, by the Scrooge Ghost of Christmas Futures and was like, oh, I need to renew this by the end of the year, or just wait until
yeah,
2025. It's like, all right, time to cancel it.
right. So wait
Well,
until next
we'll
week.
we'll see some more probably next week. But we do have the box office to get
Yes.
to.
Yes, we move on to our last segment of the show, which is movies, and opens with the weekend box office numbers. So, programming note, we are moving to Fridays, which means these are last week's box office numbers. So we will not include because the weekend has not happened yet. So just know that we are kind of living in the past now, but deal with it.
But it does mean that
Um,
we get to bring back our favorite game.
yes.
What's the box office gonna be?
Exactly. It means we can make predictions again. But we start with the weekend box office from last weekend. Your number one movie was Sonic the Hedgehog 3 again for a second weekend. $37 million this week domestic. That is sitting at 136 total. Number two, Mufasa the Lion King continues to underperform, but did gain some ground against Sonic this second week with 36 million. So about a million between them. That's at $113 million. So my prediction from last time where I said maybe it will catch up a little bit over the Christmas week. Did actually happen. However, still got outpaced by Sonic. Number three, Nosferatu got the art house cinema audiences in theaters with $21 million. That's at 40 million total right now. Number four, Wicked, still hanging out with 19 million. That has officially passed the 400 mark. It is at $424 million total. That will be on your list of highest performing movies of 24, 100%.
Yep.
Number five also will be there. Moana 2, which made another $18 million. That's just 5 million south of 400 at 395 domestic.
So it's going to hit it next time or
It will
next
do
week.
it by this weekend.
Yep.
Your new releases just south of the top five this week are A Complete Unknown, the Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothée Chalamet, made $11 million this week. That's at 23 million. Christy and I have tickets for that tomorrow. So we will be
Ooh.
able to talk about A Complete Unknown next week.
All right, you
And
can get your
then,
harmonica on.
exactly, as we are wont to do. And then the other new release, Baby Girl, made $4.3 million this week. That's at 7.2. So, yeah.
Yep, those were the Christmas releases.
Yes.
There is nothing this week because we're only 2 days into the year, which means we'll have new releases next week for you to talk about.
Yep. And this release, this week, yeah, I guess, yeah, I guess we can wait because yeah, we will talk about it next week. You're right. I had to check the calendar to verify.
Yep, next week is the 10th.
All
There's
right,
nothing.
cool.
I mean, if there is stuff coming out on the 3rd, it's not worth talking about right now.
Right.
Probably will not break the top five.
So that means we can move on to the news, and this week's news is about the box office. We have some final wrap up numbers for the year that was of 2024. $8.7 billion was your box office total for the entire year, off just 3% from 2023's $9 billion. Marvel's Deadpool and Wolverine at $211.4 million had the biggest opening of the year, and only 5 movies opened with more than $100 million in its opening week. Those are Inside Out 2, Deadpool and Wolverine, Beetlejuice, Wicked, and Moana 2. Broken down by studio, your totals are Disney with $2.22 billion from 30 released films, Universal with $1.88 billion from 31 films, Warner Brothers with $1.16 billion from 5 films. Yes, you heard that right, only 5. And Sony with $1 billion made from 28 films, and Paramount with just under a billion at 0.88 with only 12 films. So, whoa, what happened with Warner?
Uh, you had the success of both Dune 2 and the success of Wicked, accounting for, about 900 million
Yeah,
dollars of it.
except just a reminder,
Wicked is
Wicked is
Universal.
not a Warner Brothers film.
Yes.
So it's got to be more than Dune 2. Wicked is a Universal film. So
Yes.
what
Keep reminding me.
else besides Dune did Warner Brothers put out? Or is this
Uh
leftover Barbie cash from the beginning of the year?
no, Barbie was a November release.
What
Summer release.
is That's what I thought. What
Uh
is Warner making all that money from?
Kong. Uh,
Maybe?
where's my box office numbers here?
I mean, you don't have to look this up now, but it is interesting compared to the other ones. We can easily pick out what the other studios made their money with, but it's much harder with Warner Brothers.
There you go. Warner Brothers top performers include Beetlejuice
Okay,
with 300 million, Dune
that's
Part
them.
2 with 300 million,
Okay.
Godzilla X Kong the New Empire with 200 million.
Okay, so those three combined roughly get you there.
Yeah, those three
Yeah.
combined get you 800 million.
Yeah. So plus some change from the other two films, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. All right. That's believable. But still, that's pretty crazy.
200 for Furiosa.
Oh,
Actually, a little
Furiosa.
bit more. Yep.
Okay.
And then Joker. A
Joker
few.
was the other one.
Actually, they had 6 films because they're counting the Lord of the Rings Roram. in this as well.
Oh, right. Yeah. Much smaller. But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense then. But yeah, so what do you make out of these numbers? I mean, it's pretty much the narrative that we've been tracking, which is Disney kind of had a rebound year, which is why you see it at the top here. Universal had a lot of success with Wicked. And yeah, and you get those when you break it down film by film, it does these numbers more or less make sense.
Yeah, I think what you see here is that even though Zaslav didn't put out a whole lot of films, they
Mhm.
still made $1 billion in total,
Yeah,
compared to Universal, who put out 31 films.
yeah.
So more bang for the film, more buck for the film.
Which
Is there
unfortunately
something
is his
there?
whole business strategy, right? Was
Yeah,
cutting, 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 refining, releasing only surefire hits, and that's what he did more or less, at least in the film segment of his company.
right. But then you have Disney, who put out 30 films, but of that 2.2 billion,
Right.
heavily bolstered by two films, Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine.
And Moana
And
has no
Moana 2. Yeah.
not sluggish there either. So it's
Yeah, in
like,
the domestic box office here.
right. So yeah,
Yeah, these are all domestic numbers, by the way. This is not
right,
worldwide
yeah. This is
totals.
not worldwide. I think worldwide this skews probably a little further away from Disney.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
I know Wicked is doing pretty well internationally,
I mean,
comparatively.
considering there are only
So
400 million in difference between Disney and Universal right now from
right,
the domestic, you may see that skew.
yeah,
But yeah, if Paramount uh way down there at 880 million, if Tom
yeah,
Cruise doesn't put out a movie for them, they don't make $1
yeah.
billion.
I think it's a real time for Paramount to think about what they have. I think they haven't like really figured out a big franchise hit besides Mission Impossible. The obviously this is a Disney co-production, but Indiana Jones did not hit last year for them either, so it's like we're kind of waiting for that big
They,
surprise.
they don't have a new Star Trek. Everything for Star Trek's
No,
gone to TV or streaming,
right, right.
not to the movie studio.
They didn't have a big Transformers tentpole besides Transformers One, which underperformed.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're
Critically
missing some stuff.
good, but yeah,
Yeah,
box office bombed.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. This it leaves kind of now that we have a blank slate going into 2025. I don't know who comes up on top.
Well, currently it's Paramount with Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's right. They're going to start making that money up for sure, but they
Yes.
didn't have it last year. But anyway. All right, that's it for movie news. Did we watch any movies this week? Probably not.
No, but I did watch some television, but just not enough to actually want to talk about it because I watched both the What If season 3
Mhm.
and Squid Game season 2.
Okay.
I might talk about Squid Game season 2 next week. I just didn't like it.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
do a write up on it and I'll tell you
All
why I
right.
didn't like it and why we're not
Fair.
talking about it here.
Okay.
But if you want to read why I didn't like season 2, you can find that
Yeah,
eventually, probably this weekend, at mediaboatpodcast.com.
that's true. And we'll do the rest of the plugs in a second, but real quick, I just want to mention I did rewatch Conclave with Christy. She has now seen it.
Oh, yes.
Um, she really wants you to know that she was able to predict not one, but two of the major twists in the film within the
But not the
first,
final one.
yes, the final one.
Really?
Yes. Um, she saw one really early on within like the first 10 minutes. She called a certain character being a sort of villain in the story.
Okay.
And then about, let's say, a minute after a certain character was introduced, she said something about that character's appearance that ended up being a spoiler for the big reveal at the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah, she immediately saw it.
Interesting.
To which at the end she said, "Well, I thought it was pretty predictable." I'm like, "Well, I didn't see any of the twists coming. Mike didn't see any of the twists coming. Every review I've read praises how it's full of twists that you don't see coming. So
Maybe
it
she's
might
just
just be
looking too
you.
hard.
It
Maybe
might
she's
just
looking
be
too
you."
hard.
And she was like, "Yeah, it might just be me." She's been watching. She loves mystery stuff. Anyway, so yeah, just wanted to mention that she wanted to brag a little bit.
Well, good because Conclave is currently second in BAFTA nominations.
Hmm.
The finalists aren't out yet, but Conclave's looking to be a good awards contender
Yep,
this coming year.
we can hope. But yeah, we'll talk about more award season shenanigans and all sorts of other stuff next time. That'll do it for this episode of the Media Boat Podcast. But we will be back this time next week. If you want to watch us in a video form, you can go to our YouTube channel, search YouTube for Media Boat Podcast, and you'll find our channel there. Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications for when new videos go live. You can also find us in audio form on podcast services of your choice by searching them for Media Boat Podcast. Find us on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere where you listen to a podcast. You can also find us on the internet, all sorts of places. Social media, we're at Blue Sky. Just search Media Boat Podcast to find our Blue Sky account. You can find us on twitch.tv/MediaBoat, where we occasionally play video games. And you can find our archive of shows as well as write ups about certain things, like one that Mike just mentioned about Squid Game Season 2 on MediaVotePodcast.com. And then lastly, if you want to ask us a question, give us feedback about the show, let us know something, anything, you can write to us at MediaBoatPodcast@gmail.com. We will read those emails that we receive on the show. All right. In the meantime, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next week with more. Look forward to that. In the meantime, see you guys.
Yep, we'll know who's in the playoffs finale, who will
Yep.
be playing for the national championship,
We'll
and
know
we'll
if
have
my
more
big
news.
we'll know if a couple of big risks I'm taking right now in the pick'em is going to benefit me or solidify that I lost.
It will be complete chaos because all the stars are resting, so you don't know who's going to win.
Woohoo!
But yeah, we'll have all that and more next time.
All right.
I have more news, more thoughts, and more of us.
Sounds good.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye.